In up to 5% of your Claude sessions, the model answering you may not be the one you picked, and Anthropic admits it in writing on their own website. When you ask Claude Fable 5 about certain topics, the reply comes from a different model, Claude Opus 5, instead. Nobody leaked that. Anthropic openly publishes the exact system prompts for every Claude model in their official docs. And this week, that page finally blew up on Hacker News. So I read every published prompt, end to end. And by the end of this video, you'll know the 5 biggest things Anthropic admits in them, including a hidden model tier you can't buy, plus a practical rule for each one. First, the page itself, because most people have no idea it exists. Deep inside Anthropic's platform docs, there's a section called System Prompts, the exact instructions running under claude.ai and the mobile apps, published like release notes for Claude Opus 5, Fable 5, Opus 14.8, 4.7, and Sonnet 4.6, each with its update date. 2 months ago, I covered the famous GitHub repo of leaked system prompts. And back then, I had to give you a caveat. Those were community extracted, not official. So treat them as strong signal, not gospel. This page removes that caveat entirely. This is the company itself, publishing the real thing. One boundary before we start. This covers the Claude apps, not the API. If you build on the API, the system prompt is whatever you write. All right, admission number 1. Admission 1, you don't always get the model you picked. And where this is written is the fascinating part. The disclosure lives inside Opus 5's published prompt, because Opus is the model that has to face you when your Fable question gets redirected. The prompt tells Opus verbatim. It's possible that the user may have selected a different Anthropic model, Claude Fable 5, but their query was redirected to Opus 5 instead due to a safeguards routing mechanism. The user may be confused about this situation. It's very recent. And then Anthropic hands Opus the company's own statement to quote back at you, reading it word for word. Without safeguards, Fable 5's capabilities in areas like cybersecurity could be misused to cause serious damage. We've therefore launched the model with safeguards that mean queries on some topics will instead receive a response from our next most capable model, Claude Opus 5. And then the honest part. We've tuned these safeguards conservatively. They'll sometimes catch harmless requests, though they trigger, on average, in less than 5% of sessions. Think about what that means. You select Fable 5 and on some topics, security is their named example. The reply quietly comes from Opus 5 instead, up to roughly 1 session in 20, by their own average. And they admit harmless questions sometimes trip it. Though to be fair, they also say they're working to cut those false positives. Now, full transparency. I cannot measure this from the outside. There is no badge telling you which model answered, so this is Anthropic's own disclosure, not my benchmark. But it gives you a practical rule. If a security adjacent conversation suddenly feels different, you're allowed to suspect the safeguard fired, rephrase, or come back to it later. And if you're paying for a plan specifically to get Fable on those topics, now you know exactly what you're buying. Admission 2. The model you can buy is not the top of the line. The prompt lays out a tier most people have never heard of, Mythos, sitting above Opus. The docs say the current Mythos tier models are Claude Mythos 5 and Claude Fable 5. And here's the sentence that matters. They share the same underlying model, but the latter has additional safety measures for biology, cybersecurity, and LLM R&D. So Fable 5, the thing you and I actually use, is Mythos 5 wearing a safety harness. The unrestricted version exists. It's just not for you. The prompt says Mythos is, quote, not currently available to the public. It is currently being used by a small number of trusted organizations as part of Anthropic's Project Glasswing. Project Glasswing, a named program in the system prompt for organizations that get the model without the guardrails you have. None of this is a scandal. You can argue it's the responsible way to ship. But it is the clearest statement I've seen from any lab that there are now 2 classes of access. What the public gets and what approved organizations get. If this video is useful, hit subscribe because it's free. And if you want to back the work, hit join here or the supporter button on Facebook. Now, admission 3. Admission 3. The prompt contains Claude's own history because the model wasn't there for it. Here's the passage, verbatim, from the newest published prompt. Claude Fable 5 and Claude Mythos 5 were first released on June 9, 2026. On June 12, 2026, Anthropic suspended access to both models to comply with US Department of Commerce export controls. The department lifted those controls on June 30, 2026, and Anthropic restored access on July 1, 2026. And then the reason it's written there at all, these events are after Claude's training data cut off, so Claude knows about them only from this notice. Sit with that for a second. The flagship AI model was suspended by the US government 3 days after launch, stayed dark for over 2 weeks. And the only way the model itself knows any of that happened is that Anthropic wrote it a note. That is how these systems learn their own story, injected, sentence by sentence, into the prompt. And here's the wrinkle that proves it. Fable's own published prompt is dated June 9th, 3 days before the suspension. The snapshot on the page has no idea it ever went dark. Only the newer Opus prompt carries the memory. Whatever isn't written in, the model simply does not know. Admission 4. Claude gets warnings mid-conversation, and the prompt names them. Verbatim. Anthropic may send Claude reminders or warnings when a classifier fires or another condition is met. And then it lists the current set, 6 of them. Image reminder, cyber warning, system warning, ethics reminder, IP reminder, and long conversation reminder. So while you're chatting, automated classifiers are watching the conversation. And when one fires, a message you never see gets injected into Claude's context. For over a year, this was the stuff of speculation. People reverse engineered fragments of these reminders and argued online about whether they were real. Now, they're just listed in the docs with names. If Claude's tone has ever shifted on you mid-conversation, this is very likely what happened. Admission 5. The personality you experience is a spec sheet. Start with the decline bar, verbatim, from the newest prompt. Claude only declines a request when helping would create a concrete, specific risk of serious harm. Requests that are merely edgy, hypothetical, playful, or uncomfortable do not meet that bar. That is the actual refusal rule in writing. Edgy is not enough. Uncomfortable is not enough. It has to be concrete, specific, and serious. So when you get a refusal that doesn't meet that bar, you're not crazy. And calmly restating what you're actually trying to do usually gets you there. Next, the debate rule. The prompt says a request to argue for a political or ethical position is a request for the best case its defenders would make, not for Claude's own view, even where Claude strongly disagrees. Claude is literally instructed to make the case it disagrees with. And one bonus, because the older 2025 prompts are still on the same page. They contain my favorite sentence Anthropic ever wrote. Claude never starts its response by saying a question or idea or observation was good, great, fascinating, profound, excellent, or any other positive adjective. It skips the flattery and responds directly. Scroll down that page and you can literally watch Claude's personality being edited, version by version. Release notes for a personality. Now, if you build agents or write system prompts yourself, do not leave this page without stealing from it. I'm not going to claim these will boost your benchmarks. I haven't tested that. What I can tell you is that this is how Anthropic writes for its own model, and 3 patterns stand out. 1. Ban behaviors by example, not by vibe. They didn't write, don't be sycophantic. They listed the actual adjectives. Good, great, fascinating, profound, excellent. Specific beats abstract. 2. Define the refusal bar positively. Default to helping decline only on concrete, specific risk. That single sentence kills 100 overcautious edge cases in an agent. 3. Inject time-sensitive facts as dated notices. Anything after the training cutoff, they write into the prompt as a note with dates. If your agent needs to know something recent, don't hope the model knows. Write it the way they do. The full page is thousands of words of this, from the people who build the model, and it is free to read. Quick honesty check, because that's how we do things here. This page is not brand new. Anthropic has been publishing system prompts since 2024. What happened this week is that the Claude 5 generation prompts finally got read, and Hacker News noticed. The routing number under 5% is Anthropic's own average. Nobody outside the company can measure it. And everything here covers claude.ai and the apps, not the API. Official beats leaked, but official is still the company describing itself. Keep that grain of salt. Real talk. 90% of you watching haven't subscribed. On Facebook, subscribe is the supporter button. That is what keeps the lights on here. On YouTube, it's free, and it tells the algorithm to send you more. Subscribe to support us. I pulled all 5 admissions, the exact quotes, where each one lives on the page, and the 3 prompt patterns into a free PDF called the admissions file. To get it, comment the word admit on this video, and I'll send it straight to you. If you're just getting started with Claude, my step-by-step beginner guides are linked in the description. And follow Hyperautomation Labs on Facebook and Instagram. The breakdowns land there between videos. The instructions were public the whole time. Now you've actually read them. I'll see you in the next one.